Wednesday, which means we have running backs and quarterbacks coming at you today. We'll also add in our kickers. Now, as the bye weeks start to hit, it becomes increasingly difficult to fill our rosters and our lineups with excellent players. So we're going to hit RB1s, RB2s, and then those RB3 flex options as well. We're going over 36 players, as well as a couple notable omissions. If you're new, if you haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. It allows me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you the content that you love. If you have any questions about start sits or anything like that, drop those down below. Now, without any further ado, let's get into this week's running back rankings. Up first is Derrick Henry, of course, and he went absolutely nuclear against the Bills, the #1 ranked defense in the NFL. Shame on me for thinking that they would be able to contain him. King Henry has 3 touchdowns in half of his game this year, and he's averaging 27 points per. Number 2, we move to Alvin Kamara. He goes on the road to face Seattle. He has 120 yards or more in back-to-back games with 2 touchdowns in that time. Seattle's defense showed a little bit of life last week against Pittsburgh, but Kamara should be good for another 120 and a score in week 7. Someone I absolutely love this week and all the way into our top 3 is Darrell Henderson Jr. He gets Detroit. 2 weeks ago, I was all over this guy, and ever since he has been producing all over the field and in the end zone celebrating. He is going to continue to ball out. Next up at 4 is Aaron Jones. He gets the Washington football team, and he finally made it through the nightmare part of his schedule. Things are going to ease up for him. Here, the Washington football team is a welcome sight. He has 97 touches in his last 5 games and will continue to see heavy usage. Speaking of heavy usage, can we keep feeding my number 5 player, Jonathan Taylor? He goes on the road to face the 49ers. He has back-to-back top 2 finishes since we promoted buying him in our buy-sell video a couple weeks ago, and he has seen just mediocre touches so far. If they continue to feed him as this offense starts to come to life, he could be in for even bigger things. Next up at 6 is Joe Mixon, who goes on the road to face Baltimore. He has scored in his last 3 games, and he finally had the encore that owners have been waiting for since week 1. Now he gets a bottom 10 rushing defense. I love the matchup. I love the player. He will shine in this one. A fixture in our RB1 rankings this year is DeAndre Swift. He falls to 7 here against the Rams. He's averaging 6 catches a game. He's also seen 24 carries in his last 2. So we love the overall usage, and that volume will give him the opportunity to be an elite start every single week. Finding himself at number 8 is Leonard Fournette against the Bears. Now, this isn't an ideal matchup for him by any means. However, he did finish as RB3 last week, and he has 3 finishes in the top 15. In 2 of his last 3, he's racked up 20 or more carries as well, so fire him up. Turning out to be an excellent cuff, Chuba Hubbard is next at 9. He gets an awesome matchup with the New York Giants, who got absolutely demolished by the Rams last week. With CMC out so far, Hubbard has filled in nicely, and this week Coach Matt Rule has already stated that he wants the running game to be a more focal part of the offense, and that's already with the massive amount of touches that Hubbard has seen. He will continue to see heavy usage, so get your popcorn ready. Our final spot in the top 10 goes to Josh Jacobs at home against Philly. He's been an RB2 in back-to-back games, and those were both against tough matchups. Now he gets a Philly defense ranked 6th in the NFL. He's got a great chance to return RB1 numbers this week. I would expect big things. Cordero Patterson gets Miami, and he's our 11th ranked player. He's going to be fresh off of his bye this week and doesn't have a RB finish lower than 22 since week 1. This is a smash matchup against a Dolphins team that is allowing almost 30 points a game. We move to Darrell Williams on the road against Tennessee, and he is our final RB1 in week 7. Now, Williams rewarded owners after being the top waiver wire pickup. He scored 2 touchdowns and had 89 yards of total offense. He also had 24 touches in that game, so we have to continue to fire him up until CEH is back. Up at lucky number 13 is Chase Edmonds against Houston. Now, he's been dealing with a shoulder injury for the last couple of weeks and has really struggled. If he's healthy, we have to monitor those reports, but he will see heavy usage and have production opportunities as long as he suits up. At 14, it's Elijah Mitchell against the Colts. Now, he is the back to own in San Francisco. As long as he's healthy and coming off a bye, he absolutely should be. This is a tough matchup, but the volume will carry him. We absolutely loved Antonio Gibson last week, and he was a big bust for owners as he finished with just 44 yards, and those injuries definitely caught up to him. Now, he has an MRI that was scheduled on Monday. We're waiting to hear back on what that shows, but it looks like another lower leg injury for him. So, if he plays, I feel like you can't bench the guy. He has been productive and efficient. If he sits out, we would just slide in J.D. McKissic right here. Finding himself in high-end RB2 territory for the first time this year is Miles Sanders. He goes on the road to face the Raiders. Now, after decent performances the last 2 weeks, this is more a projection of a larger workload that he should have. We absolutely love the matchup, and he will be able to exploit it if he's given enough opportunities. At 17 is Devontae Booker. He got stuck in an absolutely horrendous game script last week as the Giants got behind big early and they weren't really able to utilize him. Now, he still was able to rack up 71 yards of total offense, which is kind of what we're hoping for against a Panthers team that is best in the NFL against running backs. Finding himself at 18 is James Conner. He gets those Houston Texans. As the current RB18, he should see a positive game script against the Houston Texans. He also has 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games, which you really love, averaging 15 touches during that time, but his usage depends heavily on what's going on with Chase Edmonds. At 19 is Damian Harris, who surprised some owners with all of that talk about him being maybe too banged up to play. It didn't show on the field. He had 101 yards and a touchdown against Dallas. And if he is good to go against the Jets, he will definitely outperform this ranking. You have to fire him up. He's been dynamite, and this is an excellent matchup. The final player in our top 20 is Mike Davis getting Miami. He's good for between 9 and 11 points. In fact, that's all he's done the whole season. There is some upside, however, this week against Miami, who has just been dreadful trying to stop the run. At 21 is Michael Carter going on the road in Foxborough to play the Patriots. Now, he has double-digit carries in 3 out of his last 4 games and also double-digit fantasy points in 3 out of 4. So we don't love the matchup, but we know the Jets are going to have to pound the rock to keep pressure off of Zach Wilson. Up next is a guy I really don't want to even talk about. Everyone raise your hand if you played Myles Gaskin last week chasing the points. Yeah, guilty. Now, he gets Atlanta this week, so I would love to play him against a bottom 8 rush defense. I just don't know if I'm brave enough. Are you? At 23 is Melvin Gordon III going on the road Thursday night to play Cleveland. He's currently the RB17 and has 183 total yards in his last 3 games. He hasn't, however, scored a touchdown since week 3. There's going to be a heavy dose of Denver runs against the Browns, as we know that Baker Mayfield is out and they want to try to keep pressure off of Teddy Bridgewater, who had 4 turnovers last week. Our final RB2 for week 7 is a player we're going to have to monitor closely as he left in the 3rd quarter with an ankle injury. Latavius Murray was looking really good up until then, and if he plays, we do not fear the matchup against Cincinnati. At least right now, it seems they want him to be the guy. At 25 is Javonte Williams against Cleveland, and although this is a really tough matchup, as Cleveland is the 2nd ranked team in the NFL, allowing under 17 points a game to backs, Williams' touches have increased in 3 straight weeks, so you love to see that. We have J.D. McKissic here next at 26, and this is assuming that Antonio Gibson plays. Now, he continues to produce when he's given opportunities, and he gets a good matchup here as the Packers allow 24 points a game to running backs. He has also finished top 18 twice in his last 3. A late addition to our start sit video last week after Chris Carson went on IR with that neck injury. Alex Collins is here at 27 and gets a tough matchup with New Orleans. Now, he was a revelation and was able to ball against a top 6 rushing defense. The Saints are top 8. So can he do it again? I'm not sure. We know that Rashad Penny's return also looms. Likely one of the most popular pickups on the waiver wire this week is D'Ernest Johnson, and we have him here at 28. Now, he gets the nod as both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are going to be out for this game. He is going to be the starter on early down work, but is probably going to be pulled off in passing situations. Volume is going to have to carry him against Denver's 4th ranked rush defense. We have a bit of a rough situation in our next 2 players, and that is Damian Williams and Khalil Herbert. Now, Williams last week missed his opportunity to start by going on the COVID list, and he's now going to likely split time with our next back at 30, Khalil Herbert. Herbert was a last-minute start, and he rewarded owners with an awesome performance against the Packers. He looked excellent, but this matchup against Tampa Bay is no joke. I would not expect an encore from him. I think that it's likely that we see like a 50-50 split for these guys. It makes it hard to decide who to start. Next at 31 is A.J. Dillon against the Washington football team. He's seen double-digit carries in 2 of his last 3, but did not see a target for the first time all year last week, which is a little concerning. This is a great matchup, but right now Dillon is 2 touchdown dependent to have anything higher than a 31 ranking for us. The cupboard starts to get really bare as we move down the list. At 32 is Jamal Williams. He gets the Rams, and he battled injuries all of last week, and it really showed in his performance. He's heavily dependent on what usage DeAndre Swift gets, and he is also sapping most of the receiving work, so the upside isn't very high for Williams. Ramondre Stevenson is next and put up a great game last week and finds himself at 33. He gets an absolutely amazing matchup against the Jets, but he did have just 8 touches last week. Now, he was able to turn that into 62 yards and a touchdown, and it is likely that he sees at least a little more volume in what is probably going to be a high-running game script for the Patriots. At 34 is Kenyon Drake, who came in with 1 fantasy point in his last 2, but came to life against a really tough Denver defense with 2 scores and 73 total yards. That type of efficiency should give him more usage this week against Philly. At 35, it's Mark Ingram, who gets an Arizona Cardinals team that is giving up less than 20 points a game to backs. Ingram does have 34 carries and 114 yards in the last 2 weeks, so you like that usage. Maybe he gets lucky and falls into the end zone for the first time since week 1. The final player we'll cover before we get to our notable omissions is Kenneth Gainwell at 36 against Las Vegas. Now, Gainwell has just 4 touches in his last 2 games, so the usage has been rough. But he had 9 in week 4, and I expect it to be closer to that type of a touch count here, as the Raiders are a good matchup for him. Our notable omissions include Nyheim Hines against San Francisco. He has just 9 touches and 40 yards in his last 2. It is absolutely the Jonathan Taylor show in Indy. And then David Johnson against Arizona. Johnson has scored 1 fantasy point in 2 out of his last 4 games. I will pass. Thank you very much. And that is all I have for you guys. Thank you for joining me today. If you're new or haven't done it yet, please like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it, and it helps me out a bunch. I am your host, Abraham Opatz. This is Relentless Press, and we'll see you next time.